Hello, this is Tanya Kennedy, and this is the Tanya Kennedy Media Ministry and Changing Lives Through Media Network. And I am sitting here with Andrew. I am not going to mess up your name. I'm
No,
not.
don't mess up my name. Just leave it. Go ahead, leave it at Andrew. That'll be all right.
I want to say it's Schatkin.
Schatkin, right?
Okay, I said it right.
You got it right, Tanya.
And Andrew is a radio host of his own right on Blog Talk Radio, and we are talking about his podcast, Truth in the Face of Reality. And I am so excited because we are both man and woman of God, and we have a lot in common in terms of the faith and ministry. And so I just really want to hear your take on it. What made you title your your podcast that, and why are you doing what you're doing? Besides the love.
Let me tell you, you're going to understand what I say immediately. I'll tell you what I believe to be so. I'm not going to budge from this position. I know in our present society, Jesus gets watered down by a lot of people.
Right.
To the kind of whatever they want to have comfortable with or something. But I'm not denying the truth of the Christian faith that Jesus is God. He said he was God. And one of the things that bothered the Pharisees, he had a problem with the Pharisees. I mean, the Jewish hierarchy at that time. It was a power struggle. And he claimed to forgive sins. Now, I may be able to give somebody who sins against me, but I can't go around forgiving sins. And that's a claim that only God can make.
Right.
Really. And that really bothered them, that he said he could forgive sins, and they called it blasphemy. So in the world, Tanya, that Jesus makes this exclusive claim to be God.
Right.
And I have to say, some people don't believe it,
right,
or don't like it,
right,
or are annoyed by it. And matter of fact, Jesus says he predicted his followers would be persecuted. He did. Of course, only God could predict that. He predicted his death and resurrection before he died and rose several times in the Gospels. He mentions it. So that's my position. I'm not budging from it. And I know the world has many parts of the world. Christians are persecuted today widely in the world. Very much so. There is widespread persecution. And I think that a lot of people, a lot of power structures are not comfortable with Christ. Obviously, he attracted a lot of people you might call sinners, not very wealthy people, perhaps not very well-heeled people, but those are the people that followed him.
Right.
And they follow him to this day.
Right.
And that probably, where you're living in a society where only people have money or power matter, that claim is going to bother them. I think so. Don't you think?
Yes, I do. In the climate of today's society, with all of the things that are going on with the pandemic, with the civil unrest, with all of the fighting, I think that especially in today's society, that people are offended by Christianity because we claim that our way is the only one.
Yes, that bothers me.
Yes,
that's right. But that's too bad. I mean, because that's what Jesus said about himself.
Right.
And I don't say, I'll say this, that other religions and views, they may be reaching God in their own fashion. But Jesus did make this claim, an exclusive claim. And it is something that our society, many societies don't like.
Right. The evidence for the existence of Jesus is so big, though.
Well, that's
Like,
it.
isn't it very big? Like past the Bible, there's a lot of evidence for his existence and his walk on the earth.
Oh, yes. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, okay, right now in the United States, Tanya, and maybe in North America and Europe, Christianity may not be doing so well. But I think the reason is when people get wealthy and prosperous, our faith doesn't do as well. But when Jesus has sort of transferred his efforts to countries outside of the European United States, like China, which is the fastest growing Christian country in the world.
Really?
There are many Christian converts in Iran, I'm told, a lot. And I think that yes, Jesus has moved his efforts to other societies, and who knows? Maybe someday those societies will send missionaries to North America and reconvert us.
Wow. 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 Well, do you think that we are living? Is there some people? I know that people say that we're living in the last days, but do you think, Andrew, that this is the things that are going on now are a sign of what he talked about in Matthew?
Let me put this to you. I can't say when the last days are. Of course, my last days are coming fairly soon, I suppose. I mean, I'm going to die. So, so I suppose my last days might be on the table. But I think the issue is, fact of the matter is that this is a sin-encased world. It's a lot of evil, a lot of wickedness. And many people in our society don't want to deal with that. I mean, the idea of sin, which Christians do believe in, to the extent that the Son of God laid down his life for humanity to erase their sins, many people don't really think there's a problem with sin at all. I don't think they think about it. I don't think they think about it.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, I know there's and I can't remember the term now because I just looked it up the other day, but there's a movement that says as long the way you live is supposed to be okay. Like it doesn't matter. Relativism.
Yeah, that's right.
Relativism.
It is true. Yeah, that's what it is.
And so because people are living in a relative mindset, like the relativism has taken over, like truth is relative. So Christianity does not fit into the model of relative truth.
That's right.
Because Christianity is an absolute. So because Christianity is an absolute, Jesus died on the cross, he rose again, God is God, Jesus is God, the Holy Spirit, that's right. Absolute. Where relativism says whatever I believe is okay and whatever you believe is okay, and the truth is whatever I think it is.
Well, that's right. That's the current jargon. Now, that is true. But I mean, that is frankly, Tanya, what I think about things. Frankly, I don't think it counts too much.
Right.
I mean, or you or me, or so what? I mean, that doesn't that cannot be what I think. My rather limited thinking and opinions are not that great.
Right.
I mean, so can't take the position that I've got all the answers, which is what this really implies. That
right.
You subjectivism, like you say, you can think what you want, and that represents the truth. But that's really weak because I look at myself and my opinions, and I don't find them that great.
Right.
Tell you the truth.
But I think relativism breeds pride and narcissism.
Yeah.
Because it isolates you into this bubble of thinking you're the one that's right because it's you.
Yeah.
Versus the humility of submission or the humility of saying, God, this is God, and right. This is what he says. And so my morality is based on my belief system, and that belief system is in the one true God.
Well, so you're right about that. You really got into the real problem in our thinking today. And it can lead, if allowed to continue, to all kinds of evil. Because you're saying what I think, therefore, if I want to be a pederast or whatever, and I'm not making an anti-gay comment, bear this in mind, but they're saying if you want to be a pederast or you want to be commit incest, or that's okay.
Right.
But it leads to all kinds of problems.
Right. And it also tends to lead to what we're seeing now, which is akin to anarchy. Because, and I don't want to be political, because this is not about Republican or Democrat or one side or the other. There's literally a state of anarchy right now, and people are tearing stuff down and blowing stuff up.
They are
in the name of civil unrest.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have a form or fashion. People are dying and getting killed, and it doesn't make sense. It's way beyond what it was originally supposed to be, and it looks like anarchy. And I don't think that this would exist if there wasn't the relativism.
Maybe you're right. I think you're right about that. And I want to project another issue to you, Tanya. You obviously are quite astute in your thinking. This is the issue of what's going on in our society, that people are alienated. They don't have relationships. They're trying to form relationships, and they don't get them.
Right.
I don't think so. And so they're on their cell phones.
Right.
They're on their computers. And so the result is they are isolated. The term, I think a lot of people are alienated.
Right.
They're not connected with other people that much.
Even before the pandemic.
Take the school shootings. Now that indicates to me those school shootings, that kid is unhappy. He is angry, possibly not doing well in school or not being able to get a job. That person who does that, and I think when in the school shootings, that person obviously is extremely angry and is trying to get attention. Don't you think? They're trying to get attention.
Yeah.
And maybe they're in their own way looking for love.
That could be true. That could be very true. And because from the other side of it, because I know mainstream society is starting to get shootings, but where I grew up in inner city Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So in inner city Los Angeles, because of the gang violence and because of when I was there in the early 90s and the late 80s, we had a lot of gang activity. And so to a certain extent, I haven't been in Los Angeles in so many years. I don't know how it is right now. But for me growing up, we had school shootings all the time.
Yeah, right.
But they weren't mainstream news. And they were in the inner city, so nobody talked about them.
Nobody talked about it.
The same thing that you're talking about in terms of them being angry and unloved, that's the same situation in the inner city that we have been dealing with for years.
That's true.
And so now,
not everybody in the inner city is like that.
No.
There are very many very fine, decent people who live in the inner city. But
there's a lot of people that are angry, and they come from broken homes, and they have all of these problems. And so now that problem has become society-wide, everybody's having that problem. There's more one-parent households. There's no God in school, so there's no prayer in school. So there's no moral.
No Bible reading.
No Bible. There's no moral basis in school. So now that has permeated the entire society. So now we get anarchy.
I'd like to ask you this. I have this view that people in our society are significantly looking for love, and they can't find it.
Yes.
I think maybe they go to bars or something. I see them crowding where I live. Yeah. There's a whole slew of bars, and they're all in those bars. I don't know what they're doing there. I know what they hope to gain. I mean, I guess you can meet somebody in a bar.
You can. It's been several years since I've seen the inside of a bar, but you can.
No, I don't go to bars myself, but I see these young people, 18 to 25, going to bars.
Right.
And they obviously are looking for something.
Right.
And are they going to find it? Maybe.
But I don't think that what they call today the hookup, or the person that you hook up with.
Yeah, that's what they do. It is what they do, hookups.
The hookup. But they don't find it because they're looking for it out here. And so because the Holy Spirit and God dwells within here, and you're empty because you don't have that. So then you're trying to find something to fill up that empty space because you don't have it.
And as you well know, probably better than me, there is nobody in this world that can bring us the love that we so desperately want. We have to love other people before you get anybody to love you.
And you have to love you.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. Because I know for me, I suffered with low self-esteem and low self-worth for years.
You did?
And so when I got delivered from that, I began to love me. Then it made it easier to love other people because I loved myself. So a lot of people don't love themselves.
Let me ask you this. You probably know this. Two things. I'm not saying they're all true, but a lot of women, as you said, don't know if it's a self-esteem problem, go for the dirtbags.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes. No.
Why do they do that?
Oh, good question. Because they don't think that they deserve better. If you're in a society where you're in a one-parent household and your mother gets a boyfriend or marries someone else, and that wasn't my situation, but I'm just using that as an example, and then that other person is not good to you, or they show you an example of a man that is not good, or they show you an example of a man that's not wholesome, or they're mean to your mother, and you watch.
Do they want a decent guy?
They don't. I don't think they just don't want to be lonely. It's not about not wanting a decent man. It's about not wanting to be lonely. It's about not feeling like you're worthy. It's about not having the confidence that you can get somebody that's decent. And most of these men present themselves originally as being okay. They come in the door presenting themselves as being one way, but because you can't discern the spirit.
Is that woman going to be able, I'm not making an occupation stereotype, but is that woman who you say they are theoretically looking for a decent guy, are they going to be comfortable with an executive?
Not until they get healed.
A lawyer?
Not until they get healed. Not until they get healed. They have to get healed first. Healing has to come. You have to get healed. I couldn't have looked outside of my own broken self until I was healed. And then I can stop looking to other broken people. Now I'm looking for people that don't look like I used to look. They look different. They're not broken.
You know this. I was in criminal law, and I know this for a fact, Tanya. For every criminal, there are 100 women that want to marry him. 100. Huge numbers of women that like people in jail.
Yeah.
Why is that? You understand that?
I don't. I didn't understand that when I was broken, because in my mind, he's locked up, then what is he going to do for me? So I didn't understand that one back then. But
they do go for them.
Yeah, there's a large percentage of women that go after those guys. You have to understand, a lot of our men on both sides of the island, a lot of our men, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, are locked up. So because they're locked up and the population outside is, then you have homosexuality, which cuts off a percentage of the men. Then you have
You feel a lot of men are gay?
I don't know. I just know that if you take the ones that are in jail and the ones that are gay, that doesn't leave much for the rest of us that are heterosexual, that are looking for a mate. That leaves nothing. You know what I mean? That doesn't leave anything for everybody else. Because if you
think they don't. Again, I ask you, under the surface, maybe they're not looking for a decent guy to marry. Maybe they're looking for things. Maybe they're just looking for sex. Maybe they're looking for things that, other than that.
I think when you're broken, you don't know what you're looking for. I think when you're broken, you don't know what you're looking for. You don't know. You just know that you're empty. You just know there's a void. And this person, even though they suck, they stay around. So you don't have to battle, because there's rejection and abandonment. So the rejection and the abandonment, you don't want that feeling again because chances are you felt it before. So because you don't want that feeling again, you start to target people that aren't like that, that are going to stay, even if they're abusive.
Do they, as a woman, do many women, you're a woman, you could tell me this, do not want a nice man.
I don't, again,
they are turned
it's
off
not
by
about
it.
not wanting. It's not about not wanting. It's about it's about the brokenness. It has nothing to do with, because if you get healed, because I've dealt with people that weren't nice in my healing process.
Are there a
I
lot
got
of women
healed.
that don't like nice men? They are turned off by it.
No, I don't think it's turned off. I'm telling you, I think they don't. If I'm broken, I don't even see what a nice man looks like. I'm telling you, that's what it is. It's not about not wanting. It's about not being able to accept because you don't think you're worthy of the lawyer, the doctor, the guy, and the lawyers and the doctors aren't all nice men either. But you
No,
don't.
they're not. No, they're not. They can be quite. It can be real. A person who's really mean or something.
Right. So you don't think you deserve it. It's not about not wanting. It's about a deservedness thing. And real quick, if anybody is watching in the audience and they have any questions for myself or Andrew, please put them in the comment section and I will respond if I can see them. So if anybody has any questions, please put them in the comment section and either myself or Andrew will definitely answer them because this is an interesting topic. We are just kind of basically talking into Christianity and the different aspects of things that happen within the culture. So if you guys, anybody wants to comment, please feel free.
I want to ask you, Tanya, I'd like an answer to this. This is something that many, particularly young people, have no comprehension of. Okay. That is the reality of evil. Many people don't accept it, they don't think about it, but it is, look, in the last century, there have been about 8 or 9 genocides. Rwanda, Pol Pot, Communist China, the Russian Revolution, millions of people have been killed. So you are not going to convince me that people are good.
Right.
I'm afraid not. It's not so. They're selfish. They're self-directed. They're self-loving.
Right.
Correct?
Yes. That's the idea that blows away optimism. Because optimism says that everything's perfect just how it is.
I've had people say to me, Tanya, and you can give me your view on this. They say to me they maintain this position that people are basically good. I don't know. Maybe they are. I'd like to meet more of them.
I think that, relatively speaking, that we don't know what good is. I mean, if you start being biblical about it and you say that the Bible teaches that our righteousness is as filthy rags.
That's what it says.
Well, then even the greatest good person is still a filthy rag.
Well, that's it. So we all have to face up to that, who we really are.
It makes it easier to accept Jesus and salvation if you can accept your own failings.
That's right. A lot of people don't think they have any failings.
Right.
I don't think so.
Right.
I mean, I know I do. I have an idea. I don't have a complete conception of what my failings and faults are, but I know some of them, you know. But you have to be able to be honest enough with yourself to do that.
Right.
And that's the other thing. You think most people can look at themselves in the mirror?
No, most people can't. Most people can't. And most people can't. It's hard because when I started trying to look at myself in the mirror all the time, it's hurtful. And there's stuff I don't catch. It's hurtful when you look at yourself in the mirror because you're like, wait, that sucked. Why did you do that? It's hard.
That's right. I see myself in the mirror, the reality of who I am as a person. I see selfishness. That's what I see in the mirror. I see self-love. That's what I see in the mirror. Those are two of the things I see in the mirror. I'm sure there are other deficiencies that if I knew
Right.
myself better, I would know about them. I probably don't care enough that much about people. Probably, you know.
Right.
Well, it's true. I mean, I have been able to come to terms with that.
Right. And the only way to fix any of your issues is to come to terms with them. You
Well,
have
that's
to
it.
be able to look at it and say, okay, yeah, I don't like that. Okay. All right, God, here. I don't like that. Okay, God, here. If you can't do that, then you can't fix it. Like if I don't look under the hood of a car and investigate what's in there, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong if I don't
Right.
look. And I said this to someone the other day. I said, if you're suffering from something, narcissism, pride, anger, whatever it
Well,
is,
that's it. You know,
someone has
pride is
told you.
another problem. Pride is a big problem. Narcissism is a big problem.
Right. But if you're suffering from those things, somebody's told you. You've heard it. Somebody's told you. You've heard. Hey, you're arrogant, or somebody said that to you
Yeah,
in your
yeah,
life.
that's right. Arrogance, yes, arrogance. Yep.
Somebody has said it to you at one point in your life where you've heard from someone else, hey, you're this, or hey, why did you do that? And
That's
you
right.
said, oh, I'm not like that, and you ignored it. But if you
Yeah.
really look back through your life, somebody said something. Somebody's told you,
Yes,
hey, what is
sometimes when people say, they say things we don't like to hear about ourselves, but they
right,
really might be quite true.
right,
You know, it's true what you say. Most of the time, we want people to compliment us, to say we're great, right? That's what we
right,
want. No,
right.
nobody
But
wants to be.
when people say stuff, it makes you look at yourself in the mirror. And sometimes people have judgments where you say to yourself, no, that's not me. And if you could take a hard look at yourself in the mirror, you go, well, wait a minute. No, I see this, but I don't know what that is. And then sometimes you look in the mirror, you go, no, yeah, that's me. If you're honest with yourself, but most people are not. And we live in a society today where everybody is in this little square. Like we're on social media right now and we're talking about God.
Everybody's in little capsules. Now, that's another factor today, and maybe you can explain this. This is a society where people don't communicate.
Right.
There is virtually no communication. There is no conversation. There's no communication.
Well, there's communication, but it's not the same. Like I remember when I was a kid, you had to go to see people. You couldn't see them in a little box like I'm looking at you.
Right.
You had to physically get in your car, drive to someone's house, knock on their door. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, that's right. It's more personal.
It was more personal. And so I think the pandemic has proven to completely cut everybody off, completely almost.
Made it worse.
Or trying to anyway. It's like we went from limited communication because of the cell phones and the video
And
chat
social media, right?
and social media.
That's right. It made it worse.
And now the pandemic has pushed everybody even further into their little box.
That's right. Let me ask you this. You know that in the United States, we live in a society where people are concerned with looks. They're concerned with someone's clothes. They may be concerned with the car that person drives or the area where they live. That may be something. They feel they have to be in an upscale neighborhood. They have to have a fancy car. But that is not what Jesus teaches.
No.
No, it isn't.
No.
So those values, I have a problem with those values.
Well, and most of the time, those are replacements for other stuff.
Let me ask you this. Do you think a lot of women look at a guy based on his clothes and looks?
Oh, yeah, quite a few. Quite a few, because that's the first thing you see. The first thing you notice is how someone looks and how they're dressed.
They're not going to be interested in a homeless guy.
No, well, I've never seen.
not
I've,
really
ne- I've
interested
never
in
seen. I can't say I've never seen a cute homeless guy, but he's homeless. So at that point, you could be cute if you living on the street. What are we talking about at this point?
Well, I'm just saying that I have talked on occasion with homeless people. I tell you the truth, Tanya, some of them are very nice people.
Yeah, they are.
They are. They're very nice people. And they're homeless for various reasons we don't know about. It could be they like living on the street.
Every once in a while I find that. Most of the time it's something else. Every once in a while I found I like this. That, and I've had that. Like I used to spend a lot of time in downtown Atlanta, and most of the time when I speak to the homeless, it's either drugs or loss of a job or loss of a.
It could happen to anybody.
Every once in a while, you get the one guy that says, "I like living down here. I don't have to spend. I got my money's in my pocket. I get a check. I sleep where I want to sleep." That's rare. The majority of them, it's a hardship that put them in that position.
Well, I talked to a homeless guy a few days ago. It was a woman, and I don't know if she was homeless. She was on the street. And I said to her, it can happen to anybody. You could lose your job. You could exhaust your savings. It could happen to anybody.
Right. And right now with the way, because the country keeps opening and closing, which is the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I know 100 years ago when Spanish flu happened, I'm sure however they handled it is how they handled it because they had so many people die. But the country just closes and opens and the economy starts and stops. That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. But at the same time, it is causing people to lose jobs and businesses to close.
A lot of people are losing their jobs.
And so this is an economic anomaly. And because of it, we're going to see a lot of homelessness. We don't want that, but you may see more of it than you would want, than you would think.
Many homeless people tell me, I've had a couple of conversations with them, as I mentioned to you, they don't want to go into shelters. They tell me that it's dangerous. That's what they're not comfortable in shelters, so they'd rather be on the street.
And well, because the shelter mentality, you have a lot of, it's mixed because you've got people that have mental illnesses that are also homeless on the street. You have people that are sex offenders, pedophiles. You have everything is on the street. Right. So if you went to the homeless shelter and that person is sleeping next to you in the same bunk or in the same room, because there's a bunch of people in one room. Sometimes it's not like they have their own rooms. So then you've got, say you're a homeless mother with a child.
That's
and you're on the street. Well, I'm in here and this weirdo is looking at my child. If I go to the bathroom, she's gonna get assaulted. It's weird. Or women get assaulted in homeless things. Bad things can happen in shelters, depending on the population of the shelter. So I can understand people get robbed. There is a lot of stuff because you got all your stuff. I knew somebody that's homeless once with all of her stuff.
In the United States, nobody's going to admit this, and I don't think anybody wants to talk about it, but what we respect is money and power.
Right.
That is what people really respect.
Right.
So, but Jesus...
Even in ministry.
Yes, of course. So, but Jesus tells us that one of the criticisms made of him, who is this man that eats with publicans and sinners, he associated deliberately, maybe undeliberately, with underclass people, poor people, maybe criminals. I don't know. He himself was executed as a criminal, and two criminals were right next to him. So what does that say?
Well, I mean, but you remember the story of the tax collector. When the tax collector who had money came to him and said, I've kept the laws, I go to church on the Sabbath, I pay my taxes, I do what I'm supposed to do. And he said, oh, you do all that? Okay. Right, sell all your stuff and then come follow me. And he went away. He went away devastated because he couldn't do it.
That's the kind of thing that our society finds unacceptable. Poverty. I don't think Jesus wants people poor. Let me make this clear. Right. He wants to eliminate any kind of economic inequality.
Right.
I don't think Jesus wants people poor.
I don't know. I don't know.
You know, but he does say that possibly poor people, because of their sufferings in this life, will be blessed in the next. I think that's what he means.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's good to be poor. It isn't good to be poor. It's terrible.
Right.
I mean, so, but he did apparently make an example of, or made a point of for the disciples, for example, were tradesmen. I don't think they were wealthy, but maybe they worked fishing or something.
Right.
They weren't wealthy. They were just like the equivalent of perhaps truck drivers today.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Longshoremen.
Longshoremen, right.
Right.
So those are the people he chose as his friends, as his disciples. So I think he's telling us something in those choices. First of all, he's telling us that not all educated, wealthy people are all that smart. That's the first thing he's telling us, because he chose two fishermen, Peter, Andrew, and Simon, Peter, and Andrew, to be his disciples.
Right.
So obviously he thought they were quite adequate. This idea. Go ahead.
I think that maybe he chose them because I often look at my life and say, well, Lord, why'd you choose me? But then I think that God's the guy that likes to put stuff back together and make it better than it was when he found it, because he gets glory from that.
Right.
Like, you can't, if I'm already rich and wealthy and this and that, and I'm a Christian, that's a good thing. If I'm a rich Christian and I love God, but I have money, that's great. But if I was broken and in poverty and all of this stuff, and God takes me from this point and makes me better, even financially, in every aspect, he takes me from wherever my spot was that was jacked up, and he makes me better, then that's amazing, because that shows his power and his glory. Like the fishermen were fishermen. When you see them later after Jesus is gone, they're respected leaders. And these are, in terms of the people that were converted and became Christians, they're apostles, they're starting churches and people respect them. And they're, the ones that were the followers of Christ looked at them like, oh my God, look at this. Oh, this is Peter, this is Paul, and they were like these amazing people, but they were just fishermen in the beginning.
And Paul was a tent maker. He made tents.
Right. And they went from their lowlier positions to being like higher up in, they became clergy, they became the leaders of movements.
That's right. So don't you think that Jesus is telling us in these choices that he made that not all intelligence or intellect is found in wealthy people or educated people or businessmen or professionals? He's saying that maybe you tell me if I'm wrong. He's saying that these tradesmen and these people may have greater intellectual ability than those people.
I don't think it's intellectual ability. I think it's the posture of their hearts.
Oh.
I think it's this. I don't think it's this.
A lot of people
anybody can be taught and learn up here.
Right.
Excuse me, but it's the posture of your heart. And their heart posture was different.
A lot of people feel that blue collar workers are stupid.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. Now, you ever talk to one? No, they're not necessarily.
I do deal with working people, and I find them, whatever they are, they're as good as anybody else, I guess.
Right. Because intellect, intelligence, education is something that people prize, because I am one. I love knowledge. That's one of my favorite things. Yeah. But at the same time, if my heart posture isn't right, if my heart isn't in the right place, it doesn't matter what I know.
Right.
And so I think Jesus chose the ones that he chose because of the positioning of their heart. He knew that when he was gone, they would still do it because of their heart.
But why didn't he choose the kind of people I just mentioned? He could have chosen anybody. Why does he choose a fisherman? Why doesn't he choose a lawyer? Why doesn't he choose somebody like that? Why a fisherman?
Because I still say it's hard.
Yes,
And when he said to me, when he said to them, I will make you fishers of men. So he's like, you already know how it is to go out and catch fish. And I want you to go catch this other crop. I want you to go catch these men for the kingdom. You're going to go catch the people for the kingdom. I'm going to make you fishers of men. So I think, I don't know, I just think their mentality was such that they would follow.
I see.
They were just like, you know what? I feel you in my heart. I feel that you're telling the truth. And they had the faith to follow.
What did they see in Jesus? What did those fishermen? They were simple working folk. And what did they see that they decided to follow Jesus?
I think it was hope. And they also thought he was going to overthrow the government too. Because back then they were waiting on the Messiah anyway. And in their minds, the Messiah was going to come break up some stuff. That's and because he fit in that mold, he fit all the scriptures. They were like, okay, this is the Messiah. He's getting ready to, because they even asked him, Lord, when is the time of your kingdom? When are you going to take over? When are you going to do what it is that we see in the scriptures?
Well, I just object.
When are you going to do this?
For example, I just object to the culture in the United States of celebrities, of wealth, whatever. I just object to those categories.
Right.
I don't think they're true. I don't make a judgment of a person on that basis.
Well, I think that I think that a lot of what we see on television is not real.
No.
I mean, you take some of the celebrities that are out in the forefront, and there's always some type of controversy about them, and there's always some type of mess about them. Then you take a celebrity, Denzel Washington. I'm going to use him for an example because I look at his life. He's a man of one wife. You never hear any controversy about him. He's a man of God. I used to go to his same church in California.
In Los Angeles?
Huh?
In Los Angeles?
Yes. We went to the same church. Now, mind you, I was awestruck and, oh my God, it's Denzel Washington. But he was in church every Sunday.
He was, huh?
You never hear anything about him on the news. You never
I didn't hear that he was in church.
Every Sunday. Every Sunday.
I never that's never been publicized that he was in church.
But right, because he has no controversy to give us. Now you see him and he's doing inspirational speeches and he's doing school graduation speeches and he's doing those sort of things now. But you never see anything controversial. You don't see him with another woman. You don't see him out in the streets. You don't see him.
He doesn't do that.
But he's a celebrity, and he's a well sought after celebrity. He's in movies. He makes money.
But he's not. His moral life is good.
Right. So it's not about your money, your wealth. It's about your heart. His heart posture is different. So he's not in a moral relative state. He's not in a situation where he's corrupted. He knew God before he became a celebrity, and he kept God the entire time. So he's not affected.
I was not aware of these elements of his life. I'm glad you told me.
Yeah,
I was completely unaware that he was a churchgoer and a married man, and I never knew about him. Married
man, been married to the same woman for forever. Matter of fact, when I saw him in church, I was like 16, 17, 18. And I remember once he was behind me and I was looking in the mirror and realized he was behind me and freaked out because it was like, oh my God, that's Denzel Washington, because I'm a teenager and that's my idol, whatever. But he was always at church. Like whenever he wasn't working, and if he wasn't there, her and the kids would be there. And then when he would come back from
the kids were there too? The kids were in church?
His whole family would sit in church every Sunday.
That's really great.
But that's the thing. He's a celebrity. So you can't say it's the celebrities. It's the culture that we're shown. Because there's plenty of celebrities that love God, but you don't see them on television.
You believe there are plenty of celebrities that believe that are really are followers and disciples of Jesus?
There's more than you think there are. There's more than you think there are, but those are the ones you don't hear a lot about. You do not hear their name. You don't hear any controversy. You don't hear any.
But then I never see them get on TV and give a witness to their faith. They do that? They witness?
I know Denzel does. And there's a couple of more. I know Jamie Foxx talks about his faith. There's a few that'll talk about their faith. Steve Harvey is another one.
Really? Steve Harvey talks about it?
Steve Harvey's been on TBN. Steve Harvey's done all kinds of stuff with the faith. So again, there's a lot of celebrities that are faithful, that love God, and there you don't see them in a whole lot of mess all the time because they love God. And so although they go to work, they do a job, and they go home, and they're doing what they're doing at home is different than what they do in the public eye.
Right. Let me ask you this. How do you feel about, let me talk about a couple of topics here.
Go ahead.
One of them is, these are not very popular ones, is, what do you call it? It's a, the abortion issue. Now, I want to say this about the abortion issue, because a lot of people say it's a women's rights issue. And honestly, I think a woman can't be forced to have a baby, you know. But I mean, to me, the issue is, and particularly for the Black and Latino community, abortion is killing off. It is Black genocide. It really is. And this started out with someone named Margaret Sanger in the 1920s, when she wanted a program to get rid of disabled people, people that were retarded or something, and that this thing got a foothold. Abortion is connected with it, and the purpose. Let's get down to brass tacks. The purpose of abortion, maybe they don't want to admit it, is to eliminate poor Black folk. Maybe.
You're not the first person and you're not the first non-African American person I've heard say that. You're about the third person I've heard say that.
Do you think it's true?
I believe it to be true. I believe it to be true because Roe versus Wade, Jane Roe, the woman that is the champion of the abortion, that she was the one that got it overturned, later became a Christian and fought against the very thing that she instituted with her court case. I didn't know that.
You know, the Planned Parenthood goes into poor Black neighborhoods with all kinds of signs telling these women to get rid of your babies.
Yeah. But again, it started off as something, it started off as genocide for us, and it became genocide for everybody.
Well,
just
yeah.
In general. It started, and I think we are the great experiment for everything. Look at Tuskegee. The African American community becomes the great experiment for everything. It is. It's like, oh, okay, well, let's see what happens if it's in their neighborhood. We're going to give them food stamps and see what happens to their neighborhood. We're going to put drugs out and see what happens to their neighborhood. We have become the great American experiment. And when it works for us, then they squish it out to the rest of society.
That's right. I read a book, let me tell you, Tanya, about an Anglican Church of England bishop named William Barnes. William Barnes was a big proponent of something called eugenics. And he took the horrible position that he wanted to eliminate non-white people.
Wow.
He didn't make it. That is this Margaret Sanger. That is one of the motivational factors in abortion, getting rid of non-white people. I'm convinced of it.
So eugenics, for people that don't know, the definition of it is the study of how to arrange reproduction within a human population to increase the occurrence of heritable characteristics regarded as desirable.
Yeah, and he said, you're right about that. You defined it correctly.
I looked it up. Yes, sir. The dictionary right here. I looked that up because I heard
he took the position that he wanted to preserve the white basis of English population. That is the position he took. It was horrible.
Wow.
Well, You know,
But
I
see,
mean,
and so there's so many things that we don't know that are prevalent in society and that have been infiltrated into our society that we're unaware of. Because I heard the word before, but I never knew what it meant till you used it, and then I'm like, let me look that up because
well, you defined it correctly. And I believe, I'm not sure, I'm not 100% sure, that the present abortion program is directed against Blacks and Latinos.
I think it's directed against, because, like, for example, here in Georgia, we have something called the Georgia Guidestones. And if you go up to the Georgia Guidestones, there's a manifesto that talks about basically lessening out population. And it's posted, like it's a plaque. And it talks, and I can't remember exactly what's on the Georgia Guidestones. That's another one of those, I'd have to look it up. But the Georgia Guidestones is another thing like that. So the Georgia Guidestones, when you go to look at it, it tells this about how to get rid of it's population control. It's basically
it is population control. I want to ask you this. How do you're an African American woman. I want to get your perspective on the abortion. Yeah, you are. Yeah, I'm looking at you right now. Like, I'm not making a mistake about it. You're Black. Okay. Anyway, I want to know, how do you feel about Roe v. Wade?
From personal experience, if there had been Roe versus Wade, I would not have. If it had gone through when they first started it, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
Because my mother was raped. So my mother was raped. So because my mother was raped, that's how I got here. And had there been abortions, I would not be here today.
So your mother decided to have you as a child?
Well, she had my grandmother to help with that. So
but
she
still, that's a very courageous decision. Because if she was raped and she went through a pregnancy,
right,
that's a very, very brave and courageous decision.
Well, I think that God had His hand in it. So
obviously, you're here.
I don't know if greater reason it is God's hand in it that just kept her, and because she was young, and so you're taking advantage of it at 18 years old, but you have your mother who's there to say, no, I got you. So whatever my mother went through, it didn't matter, because for the first 11 years of my life, my grandmother had me.
Oh.
So if my grandmother my mother birthed me out, and thank God for my mother, but my grandmother was the one that kept me all the rest of those years and instilled in me a love for God. This is a woman who would stand we went to a Baptist church where they didn't believe in speaking in tongues, and she would stand in the kitchen window and speak in tongues. And that was the first time I ever heard it. I was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and she would just pray in tongues in the kitchen. Grandma, what are you doing? Praying? Oh, okay, doesn't sound like English to me, but okay. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it was then. But so she instilled in me a love of God and going to church, and that came from her. So
I'm really impressed that when I see you here on this TV show, video show, and you're proclaiming the gospel, and you're giving people all kinds of thoughts and all kinds of perspectives, that indicates to me the mistake in having in legalizing abortions.
Right.
You can see the mistake. You don't know what that person is capable of.
You don't know who that person's going to be.
Who's going to be, right? Look at you. You're presenting
There's another pastor, and I can't think of his name, but he was an abortion that lived. He was a failed abortion. Like, they tried to abort him and didn't. And he's a minister too. And it was a bunch of stuff. And I cannot remember his name to save my life. I saw his testimony on something. He was standing up and he had on
amazing. Yeah. That shows to me the mistake in the abortion issue. You can't tell what kind of person that's going to be.
You never know who somebody's going to turn out to be.
And to eliminate them on the basis of, why do you think women have abortions? They don't want to be bothered?
No, poverty, fear. There's some that just do it because they don't want, but there are more people that do it. You've got rape, you've got poverty, you got when you go to the doctor and they tell you that this child is going to have a birth defect, and you can either have the child or terminate the pregnancy and try again. People terminate because they don't have the mental wherewithal to say, I'm going to take care of a disabled child. But that's just like, for example, I know a woman that her baby has certain disabilities, and she carried her baby, and her baby was born, and that baby's amazing, and he's beautiful, and he's amazing. And imagine if she'd have aborted that baby.
That's
He's
right.
amazing. This kid's the most beautiful baby on the planet. Like I'm trying to get to where she is so I can go play with that baby. But he has some disabilities, and they told her, well, maybe he's not going to live, so you should have, or maybe have an abortion, or they gave her all of those horrible advices, and she didn't take any of them. And her baby's amazing, and that baby brings joy and life to people.
Yeah, I can imagine. Tanya, what about this? Abortions, they are justified, as you say, by the child is disabled or mentally challenged or whatever. But I'm sure you know this too. I have had the opportunity to speak and relate to mentally challenged people. They have a lot to offer. They're very nice people.
Those are some of my favorite people.
Yeah, they are. They're very nice people. Yeah.
Oh, and I say that those are some of my favorite people because the normal people act a certain way, and there's nothing that says why they're acting like that. If you're mentally challenged and or disabled, there's a whole piece of paper that excuses why you're acting the way you're acting. So they're just genuine people. They're not, whatever's going on with them is whatever's going on with them. And you got these other people that act badly. They have no excuse for acting badly. They're just not nice people.
Do you believe that a woman should have an abortion to get rid of a child who's mentally challenged or has Down syndrome or whatever?
No, that baby just
how do you justify that? You know that kid's going to be a tough call for that woman throughout her whole life.
But the thing is, I believe that if God allowed it to come here, the baby, that there's a reason for it being here. And that's just what I believe. And I have been on both sides of the spectrum. And I believe if a child was allowed to come here, that kid should be here. And the thing is, people make decisions to have abortions on a day-to-day basis. And I don't begrudge anybody if that's the decision that you want to make, because I made that decision years ago.
You did?
I made that decision several years ago and cried about it and felt guilty about it for years and years after. But I made that decision once before in my life. And
you had the baby aborted? How did you feel about it?
Horrible. I felt horrible doing it. Begged God to forgive me because I said I'd never do it, and did it and did it because I had just had a baby. So in my mind, I can't do this. The situation I was in, I was living on somebody's couch. I had 3 children. I had 4 children already. I was living on somebody's couch. I couldn't do. In my mind, I'm like, I can't do this. And I made that decision and regretted it for the rest of forever. I know God has forgiven me for it, and I asked God to forgive me for it. Because I couldn't. Poverty.
You couldn't take care of the kid.
I felt like I already had 4 kids that I couldn't take care of, so why would I bring another one into the world that I can't take care of?
Right. I can understand that.
I did, like I said, so I can't look at anybody else and judge them for anything. I could have gave, and in my mind, if I bring a kid here, I got to raise it. I can't put it up for adoption for me. How could I have 4 and give away 1? So I knew that wasn't an option for me. But there's a lot of people that have babies that you could give that baby to a family that wants it instead of aborting it, because there's plenty of people that can't have kids at all. So for me, my decision to say I'm pro-life is not because I've never done it, is because I know the damage it does. The damage it did to me emotionally. I had to live with that for years. The damage it did, it further messed with my self-worth and myself. It just made things worse. It didn't make, even though I was still in poverty. It just made things way worse. Way worse. And so that I don't advise it to anybody. If it's your choice to do, I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but that's not my advice for anybody because I don't think it's good.
Do this. The reason you gave in your life, they can't handle it.
Right. I don't know. I don't know how many people have committed suicide behind it.
They could be sent out for adoption. There's plenty of couples that would like to have a kid.
Right.
So why not have it?
Right. So that's why I know what the reasons are, because I had those same reasons. So I know what the reasons are because the same reasons that somebody else had, I had. Do I regret doing it? Yeah. If I could do it over, would I do it different? Probably. Because my thought process is different now.
But still, you already had 4 kids, right? Now were you a single mother, or were you with someone?
I was single at the time.
Well, that is very rough. That is a tough life.
Right. But that's a lot of people's stories. So you've got there's a teetering thing. Now, do I think that once the kid has a heartbeat that they should allow abortions? No. I think once there's a heartbeat, yeah, you got to have that kid. I think that there should be a shorter window to the abortion process. And I think that for people that are raped, or I don't know, because again, I got here by that reason. So I don't know how to justify it. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to fix it or justify it. I just know I understand why people do it. Do I agree with it? No, but I understand it because I did it.
Well, do you think getting down to the nitty gritty, this is how I might approach it. Personally, I'm pro-life personally, but on the other hand, I understand that in some sense, you can't make it a law to make a woman have a child.
They could. They could, but the country would fall apart. I mean, it's already bad enough as it is. Right now, a woman's right to choice is like if you the pandemic stopped abortions for a little while and they flipped out. They're trying to sue somebody. They're mad. So the whole concept of not having an abortion or not terminating a pregnancy, that whole concept, when they messed with it during the pandemic, it shot off fireworks. So oh yeah, it was all over the news. They were talking about it. They were talking about, we're going to sue you. People, you're taking away women's right to choice. It's a pandemic, sweetie. But that's not what they were talking about. They were upset, and it was a big deal, and it was all over the news.
One time I was in the pro-life movement, and I saw a video of a pro-life group that went to George Washington University, and there was, frankly, they were sort of upscale white females that were approached on this issue. Just a remark, and they got very upset being told about that they were against that. The sign said abortion is murder and a sin. They went crazy being told that. They did. So it seems to me that they really got upset when that was presented to them. So why do you think that a college student like that would get so very angry in being confronted with a pro-lifer?
Because, that's just like the movements that are going on now. And you've got a lot of upper middle class white kids running around blowing up stuff with.
Well, it's true.
So why are they doing that?
A lot of these
Black Lives Matter is not necessarily an upper middle class white college kids issue.
But they're the ones that take it up. They're the ones that take it up, though. I noticed. Those are the ones that do the protests.
And it's not to say that it shouldn't be everybody's issue, but when you start talking about the upper, it's like these are the people that want to have the choices. So you've got your upper middle class college kid, non-African American, and they already have choices that the African American community doesn't always have.
That's right.
But when you come challenge their choices, they're upset because you're challenging their already, and I hate to say it like this because people throw the words white privilege around all the time.
Yeah.
But when you talk about why they're upset, well, you're messing with my right to do what I want to do with my body.
That's what they said. That's what they said.
And a lot of them are not doing it because they're not in poverty. They're you might be having an abortion because daddy's going to take away your bank account if he finds out you're pregnant.
That's right. They're not really.
Whereas when you've got somebody
or in difficult circumstances where they can't raise a child, yeah, but there's
a big difference.
A lot of white people seem to engage in these movements like Black Lives Matter and stuff, and I noted it. I took note of it.
And I mean, and don't get me wrong, we need y'all because there's not enough of us to affect change. There's not enough African Americans and Hispanics in the country to affect the changes that need to be affected. But at the same time, we're not the ones snatching down statues. We're not the one. It's like some of the stuff is extreme, and it always is. It's like there's this extremeness when it comes to when we have a cause, we doing sit-ins and marches, and when y'all join the cause, is they tearing down statues and
I know.
So it's a little extra. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know why it is that way. I just know that's.
I did take note of it. White middle class, upper middle class women seem to be featured.
Yeah, it is.
They are.
It is.
I want to ask you. I personally, of course, I know it sounds like I'm backward or something, but I do believe that I don't believe in evolution.
Oh, of course not. Well, I'm extremely conservative. If you're talking about being conservative, including my political views, I am completely conservative, and it's a hard line to follow.
You are Black conservative?
Woo! Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very conservative.
I have run into a number of Black conservatives.
Very conservative.
I ran into a large number of Caribbean women, African American women who like Trump.
I can't say I like him, but because he says there's some things he says I do agree with. But I can't say I like him because he's such a butthole. He's not a likable person. So I can't really say, oh, I like Donald Trump. No. But I do. But him versus the other side
that seemed to favor him.
Yeah.
There were. Yeah. I
don't know how it's going now because they're ripping him over the coals right now in public opinion. So the little orange president, I don't know how he's gonna fare when it comes time to reelect. But I do think that when they start talking about all the things that are going on right now, even though he's not the nicest person in the world and he says whatever he thinks, no matter what it is, I think the opposite side is not going to be the greatest choice. That's just my personal opinion. I don't have a horse in this race because I don't like either one of them.
Well, I'm listening. You definitely think independently. I can see that. You're an independent thinker. You're not affected by what other people tell you or whatever, So
it's hard it's hard being a conservative African American woman. Do you know how hard that is among the African American community? That's difficult.
But there are quite a few. I've run into quite a few of them.
Really? I feel like a woman on the
I've run into some African American women that were conservative.
Yeah, I feel like a woman on the island sometimes.
Why the Democratic Party has a hold on the Black community?
It is. I'm gonna tell you why. It is civil rights and the Kennedy era is why most of us end up being that Democratic. See, you got the Republican situation. You've got Abraham Lincoln, and up until the civil rights movement, all of your prejudice was coming out of the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
and still does. Mind you, people don't realize that it still does.
Yeah.
So then you've got your Republican Party, right? And all of the Republicans up until Kennedy who was this amazing guy and who entertained Martin Luther King and who he did all of this stuff. Well, he became the president of the Black community because his goal was to try and fix some of this stuff.
He tried to help.
And all of the Black community said, if that's what Martin is doing, that's what we're going to do. And Martin brought all of the Black voters with him. We're going to vote for you.
Okay.
So now they've stayed there because that's where Martin was, and that's where we've stayed. It doesn't matter that it doesn't necessarily benefit us all the time. It doesn't matter that it keeps, you've got welfare and poverty and drugs and all of that stuff is kept in place by the Democratic Party. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter that because
that's what somebody else said, that all these things like welfare and stuff, that they're kept in place by the Democrats.
Yeah. Because the thing about it is, when you get out of that system, when you get out of it and you look back at it, you realize, wow. Because there are generations of families that live on food stamps and welfare, generations of families. It's like a generational curse. And it's like a generational curse that has been put in a community. Here, have this curse. Oh, gee, thanks. When it first started, and Section 8 and all of those things were started in the African American community, they tell women, if you're not married and you're single, we'll give you this housing for this amount of money. So then you're destroying the Black family, because now the husband, now I don't want to marry you because I can't get the stuff from the government. And so I'm going to put you out the house because in order to get the cheap housing, you can't be here. So that started way back when all of that stuff started, back when, because we're talking Black Wall Street was a thing in Oklahoma City where they had their own community and was very affluent and wealthy. They didn't have welfare. They didn't have handouts, or they were independently wealthy, and they came in and they destroyed it. Because we can't subjugate you and keep you in this situation. If we let you be affluent, you'll affect the rest of the Blacks. If we let you be affluent, we got to destroy this.
Now, I have something else I have to do. Did you want to talk longer or what?
No, we're good. Normally we try and keep it at an hour. We've been talking for quite some time. I thought
it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
I want you to come back, please.
I want to come back. I want to talk about more stuff.
Yes, sir. This has been an episode of Tested. I'm Evangelist Tanya Kennedy, and this is Andrew Schatkin. Yes.
Right.
And this, I dare say, a theologian. You guys need to check out his podcast. Give the information for where people can find you on your...
Okay, you go to my website, SCHATKIN show.com. You will see my blogs. You will see my podcasts. You will see my books. And if you go on the site, you will see dozens and dozens of essays, usually on Christian belief.
And I know I skimmed it. I looked, and it's some amazing stuff on there. And I'm probably going to go try and eat some of it.
Nice. I want to get your book when it comes out. I want to talk to you again.
Yes, my book is entitled Thankful Authority. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully I'm start looking for publishers and see what's going to happen. But yes, sir, as soon as they get one, I'll let you know.
Well, it's amazing that you've been able to do what you've done from very difficult circumstances.
Well,
I didn't want to say that, but I think it's true.
It's true.
You didn't have an easy life.
No, but you know what, though? God can take anything and make something out of it. I'm an example of that.
As you said, look who he took to be his disciples.
Right.
Fisherman. Right. If you want to look at a fisherman, all you got to do is go to any working man. And, like I say, and you said, you defined it rightly, he looked inside that person.
Yeah, in here.
Yeah, he did. He looked inside that person. And, that's why he chose them.
Yeah.
I guess he chose them for their love.
Yeah, that's it. Because love's the greatest one.
Yeah. Love is more essential. It's what you do with your life. That's the key. Not what you say. Not
Right.
going to church. Yes, I go to church, but it's not going to change me. It's how I live my life in loving my neighbor. That
Yeah.
is the issue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It was good
God
talking to you.
bless you. It was so good talking to you, Andrew. This has been, once again, an episode of Tested. God bless you guys, and good night.
Night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.